Hello, and welcome back to our history lesson. Today, we're going to be looking at how archaeology has helped us understand Anglo-Saxon Britain. A lot of the information that we get comes from archaeological digs and what we find. There's not a lot of written records, so we can't take a lot from that. And obviously, there are no photographs because photography wasn't actually invented by then. So, what we're going to do is going to look at what an archaeologist is and how that's helped us understand Anglo-Saxons. So the key language we're looking at today, archaeology, which is the study of history through the excavation and uncovering of sites and analysis of what is found within those sites and any physical remains and artifacts. We have archaeologists, which are the people that carry out the archaeological digs. They're the people that analyze the artifacts and look at any physical remains that there might be. And then you've got what the artifact actually is. And an artifact is an object that's made by human beings and is usually giving information as to life during that period of time. Now, you may know this, you may not know this person. This is Indiana Jones. And in the movies, archaeologists are portrayed as these people that travel across the world having amazing adventures. And they find priceless treasures and face deadly dangers in order to find those. However, in reality, it's slightly different than that. In reality, archaeologists still can travel all around the world and still find incredible treasures and artifacts. But it's much more of a slower process, and they have to be much more careful that they damage anything they unearth. And usually they don't find intact temples that they can go in and find things. It's digging them up out of the ground, and quite often it's entirely safe in what they're doing. So we learned a lot about the life from the past, life in the past, from the things that we find, the artifacts that we find. And a lot of these come from archaeological digs. Often they've come out of the ground and they have been buried for hundreds of thousands of years. And this burying preserves aspects of whatever it was. So you might find evidence of dinosaurs. And obviously this is where we get all our information of dinosaurs from. We find fossils, not necessarily the bones themselves, but at least some information that regards to dinosaurs and how they lived. And a lot of this is in... Another thing is we might have found Roman mosaic art, and they've actually found completely intact floors that have just been covered by debris, dirt, and earth. And it's quite amazing when you look at them. They have to be very careful because obviously if you were to dig down to this and just keep digging, you would ruin it completely. And then they've even found underwater discoveries like the Mary Rose. And this was quite an amazing one there. The majority of it was actually underneath the silt at the bottom of the sea rather than in the sea, because the sea does have its ability to wear away what it is there, it erodes it, it breaks it down. Sadly, some of the materials will rot away when buried underground, things like wood and fabrics. And it's the job of archaeologists to have to work out what the complete item might have looked like. Like this axe. We know it's an axe head, but what would the rest of the shaft have looked like? What would it have been held like? What would it have been used to do? They have to work through the ideas and see what one is the most feasible for the item that they're looking at. A lot of what we know about the Anglo-Saxons comes from a single archaeological site, Sutton Hoo. We mentioned this before in a lesson about East Anglia and the fact that the famous Sutton Hoo archaeological site was there. So in the summer of 1939, as World War II was edging close, a discovery was made beneath the earth in a quiet corner of Suffolk on the east coast of England. And this is just here, and you can see that's in the area of East Anglia right at the bottom. And this is an actual picture that was taken of the dig that they did. And the archaeologists found a ship and a royal burial chamber full of the most valued possessions that he was going to take with him into the afterlife. And what you can see here, these outlines, is where the wood would have been. The wood isn't actually there because a lot of it had rotted away, but you can see the outline of where the earth was against it. And over time, because it was there for such a long time whilst the wood was rotting away, it's left an imprint. Even when you take away the rest of it, you get a hard packed area, which shows what this looks like. Now, archaeologists spent years carefully collecting and, where possible, repairing the artifacts that came from this dig. All the time building a clearer image in their head of what life was like in the Anglo-Saxon period. What you have to remember is that they have to think about where the item might be used, how it might be used, and who it was used by. A lot of the stuff that they found was obviously might have been used by an important person, so a rich individual, and then you have to make a decision as to whether or not those items were available to everybody or whether they were just limited to that person or people with power. And you have to see how useful that might have been for them. So some of the items we're looking at is this. I'm not going to tell you what it is. What I want you to do as I reveal them, I want you to think about what you think they might be. Be an archaeologist for a second. Have a look at what it is and have an idea of what it might be and what it might have been used for. So we've got this one. This is our next one. Where do you think that might have been used, or what is it? These, what do you think they are? Can you see any details if you look closely? This one hopefully is nice and straightforward, but look at the damage done to it. And this final one, what do you think this might have been and what might it have been used for? Now, there was also this that was found, and this was actually found, it was a helmet. It was corroded completely over time from water damage and stuff like that. And actually broken into lots of thousands, lots of hundreds of fragments. And it was because of part of the burial chamber collapsed, it damaged it as it collapsed. And after many years of the British Museum, the conservation team was able to reconstruct it. Based around what they knew, based around what they could see here, they were able to make an idea of what it would look like. And this is their final image based on what they found, reconstructing things as they went along. And you can see how ornate it was. So my question to you is, do you think this was a helmet that was worn all the time, or was it only for special occasions? So thanks to archaeologists, we know a lot more about our history. And we call it our history because it is the history of this land. And actually we can see things that have come from that time that are still in use now, like some of the language, some of the days of the week, some of the celebrations we have, as well as some of the ideas and concepts. In the next lesson, we're going to look more closely at the metalwork and jewellery worn by both men and women. And for Friday's lesson, you'll need some flour and some salt. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. I know there wasn't a task, but we just need to get you ready for what's happening on Friday. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.